Let's take that to my panel tonight. Sky News contributor Joe Hildebrand and host Steve Price. Steve, of course, you've borne the brunt of most of this down in Melbourne. I mean, more than 100 fire bombings you've had at tobacconists. You've got insurance companies now refusing to insure people who live in buildings that have a tobacconist down the bottom of them. And the federal government just won't move on this. It is so stupid.
Yeah, look, they don't understand. I mean, there's a fire bombing of a tobacco shop every night pretty much in Melbourne, and that's been going on, Caleb, I now think probably for 4 or 5 years. I mean, it is bloody dangerous. And I tell you what, there's shopping strips. I mean, you mentioned how many of these tobacco joints are around. Up and down, say, Chapel Street in Windsor and Prahran, every second shop's a tobacconist.
Yep. And
you can just walk in there and obviously, clearly, you can purchase an illegal product. Now, the police have not got the resources to shut those shops down. They don't seem to have the will either, and the state government certainly doesn't have the will, neither does Canberra. It's a dangerous criminal activity that they just refuse to accept is happening. And you're quite right, we could all see this coming. I mean, who's going to go into the IGA or to Woolies and pay $57 for a packet of cigarettes? No one's going to do that if they know they can walk next door and get the same packet, as you said, for $20.
And I feel so sorry, Joe, for the states, because, you know, the states get saddled with having to enforce all of this, but it's not their fault that the federal government is so greedy that they say, well, we want more and more tax. But the reality now is the tax is going backwards because everyone is buying the illegal stuff anyway. Like, you would think even from the bottom line, the budgetary bottom line, they'd start to go, oh, hang on, this isn't working.
Well, as the good minister said, you know, we can't let organised crime dictate revenue measures.
That is a cop-out.
That's right, revenue measures to the government, which I think actually sort of bells the cat on this. This is a huge money spinner for the government. It used to be, I remember when all these taxes and the plain packaging and everything was brought in, back when I think Tanya Plibersek was health minister, and the argument was that that tobacco actually cost the country, cost the taxpayer so much money in medical expenses, hospital stays, you know, people being off from work because they're sick. And I remember noticing a few years ago in one of the budget lockups that the amount of money that the government was now getting from tobacco excise was now outpacing how much smoking actually cost the community. So from then on, it obviously became a cash cow. I think another problem for the government is that at the exact same time as the tobacco taxes were skyrocketing, they were cracking down on vaping as well, which is how a lot of people were, because I think a lot of the reason it's going down is because some people are quitting. But again, the easiest way for pretty much every smoker I know to quit has been to transition to vaping, and they were making that harder, putting up more regulatory hurdles at the same time. So it was a perfect storm.
It's just stupid stuff. Now, of course, I talked a little earlier about...
Caleb,
sorry, go on.
Caleb,
go on, Steve.
What happened to the crackdown on vapes? These things that come into the country that are supposed to be illegal that Mark Butler announced. I don't see any crackdown on vapes.
But this is the thing as well. They missed a trick there because they could have regulated it in the same way they do cigarettes and said, well, we understand that the illegal cigarette market already exists, so of course there's going to be an illegal vape market. But they said, no, we'll ban it. It'll all be fine.
They could have said,
that hasn't worked.
Don't smoke illegal cigarettes. Buy legal, regulated vapes.
Exactly.
And the market was doing that, but the government sort of...
Everything they touch, they bugger up. Now, the other thing I talked about at the top of the show, of course, is that the Liberal Party and how they've got to decide what their philosophies will be going forward. And it's interesting to see the divides. I talked about what Garth Hamilton had to say, and I think it's some of the best analysis I've seen so far. On the other side, this was Senator Jane Hume on Sky News today.
I have a personal opinion on that, of course, and you know that would be that you know the electorate has sent us a very clear message what it is that they want in their government. Abandoning net zero, I don't necessarily think is consistent with that.
I mean, Steve, do we really believe that everyone went out and voted for Labor because they couldn't, you know, bear the idea of net zero not existing? I don't think that had anything to do with it.
No one's marching in the street for net zero. I don't care what any Labor minister says or what Chris Bowen rattles on about. It's simply not, that's not the issue. I mean, the Liberal Party have got to wake up to themselves, and Jane Hume needs to as well. I mean, have a look at the train wreckage around the country. I mean, put to one side for a moment that awful election loss and how devastating that was. Have a look at WA. The Liberal Party basically doesn't exist. They got, You know, they've got 2 or 3 members in the state parliament. Basil Zemplis is trying to fix that up. In South Australia, in Adelaide, the Federal Liberal Party don't have 1 seat in yours and my old hometown, Caleb. I mean, that is just something that, growing up in South Australia, you could never imagine that would be the case. In Victoria, the state opposition's hopeless.
They pretty much lost every booth in Adelaide, let alone every seat, which is just extraordinary.
I mean, I grew up in the seat of Sturt. That was always a Liberal seat. I mean, Adelaide had a divide, as you know. The eastern suburbs and the inner southern suburbs were always Liberal territory. Port Adelaide and the western suburbs were different. But, I mean, the Victorian state opposition, they spent all of their time throwing more redeeming out of the party and not worrying about trying to win an election. Dan Andrews won 3 elections in a row in Victoria. The Liberals never got within a sniff. So it's not hard to work out what's gone wrong here. The Liberal brand is completely stuffed, and if they don't realise that themselves, how's it ever going to be fixed?
Yeah, and the point, Joe, is that it's not just about dropping net zero or having net zero. It's about the effect of doing so. And if you can say by dropping net zero, we can wind back whatever plans there might be for renewable energy, whatever they can sell, and say, look, this will result in a reduction in your power bills, for instance. That is the point of going down this road, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting article by Garth Hamilton, but to be honest, I think even talking about net zero is a problem for the Liberal Party. I think the reason why this election was such an emphatic win for Labor is because Labor moved to and held the centre, and I know that's something that a lot of people on the right refuse to believe, but that is what...
But was the centre really worried about net zero at this election?
No, they don't care either way. This is the whole point. So the mistake that both the left and the right make on this issue, just as they make on Indigenous issues, is thinking that everybody else cares about them as much as they do. One side cares about them in a very, very positive way. The other side cares about them in a very negative way, and you can swap them around or whatever. The point is the vast majority in the people in the middle do not give a rat's. And that is why when Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party started arguing about welcomes to country in the last week of that campaign, I was just going, for the love of God, it's already dead. What are you doing?
But that was my point.
We're talking about, most people aren't marching in the street for welcomes to country or marching in the streets against welcomes to country. They just want a party that is going to fix their kitchen table problems. And whichever party has the most credibility, whichever party they believe can do that, they will vote for. They don't care what colour it is. And Peter Dutton lacked credibility, and the coalition lacked credibility in terms of their policy plans and the detail around it. And at the same time, they were talking about other stuff, cultural issues that no one cared about.